Hey guys, so I've had a few people ask me about my crawlers, pretty much all of my trucks. So I figured I'd go over a few of them. A couple guys wanted reviews on them, or overviews of them, more or less. So first truck I'm going to do here, this is my 2.2 Sportsman Truck. This is a competition crawling rig, based off of an Axial AX10, heavily modified, not much stock. I'll just go over a few things as I'm going through it. The tires, these are Boss Claws, low C Boss Claws. I cut them kind of funny, so they're pretty horrible, but they do the job, and I wasn't going to throw them away just because I cut them up wrong. The rears are HPI rock grabbers. They have a little less traction, so I like to have those on the rear, because sometimes on the Sportsman trucks, since you don't have dig, you gotta have all four all at the same time. So sometimes you want the rear to slip while the front grabs, so that it doesn't flip you over or anything fun like that. Pull the body off here. The body is I've got these nylon bolts. Put them over here. Nylon nuts and bolts that I use for the body. They're just a little bit nicer than body pins. You don't have to worry about losing them, stuff like that. This body is I believe it's a J Concept Stage Killer body, crawler body. This paint that I did, and underneath is the rear axle. Here is standard AX10 axle. The front axle is a standard wraith or AR60 axle. Also comes in the new Ridge Crest, and can't remember what the new one's called, but it comes in a few Axial trucks. So we'll look at the front first. So on the front, I've got the wraith axle. This is a mount made by, can't remember that either now. This is a custom carbon fiber G10 mount. It's made out of G10 that I put on top of the axle, and I had to do that because I mounted the servo in behind as kind of a custom deal. And then I've got the aluminum kind of link mount here. This was intended for an XR10 link mount, but I modified it for my purpose because I needed to lift up the front links to get them above the servo, because I've got the servo tucked in behind the front truss there. There you can see a little bit better there. Got the servo there, and then I've got a plate that's just underneath the servo ears. I kind of mounted it under the servo ears, and that will hold my battery on the top with the Velcro, and underneath is my electronics, kind of between two carbon fiber 1/8" plates, so that the rocks will slide across the axle, onto the servo, onto the plate, and on. I've got the standard Wraith DB8 drive shafts. I did sheath the male side. You can put a rod, basically like one of the stock Axial rods, a 6mm, inside the male side, and that strengthens the walls of it. Otherwise, if you put this much torque into it, it'll just get turned into licorice. So inside the electronics mount there, I can't remember what's in there. I believe I've got an FXR and the BEC in there, and then up top here I've got the radio for my Futaba 4PL that runs this. The transmission is very basic. It's just a standard Axial transmission with hardened gears, the RPP hardened gears in it, the spool and the idler in there, and then just a standard spur pinion. The motor I've got in here, no label on it, but I'm pretty sure that's a Brood motor. I don't know the specs. I think it's 35 turn. I bought it as a pair from one of the MOA guys, and me and my brother split it, and he threw one in his truck and I threw one in my truck. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then on the rear here, I've made this custom carbon fiber plate. Just links up to the 3 bolt holes on the rear of the AX10 axle and puts 2 holes for me for my links. The lower links are custom titanium links, 3/8 titanium, that were cut and threaded by one of the guys in our club, Paul, and I put the bends in them for the custom bends for this truck. The upper links are custom made as well. I made those out of some carbon fiber rod, solid rod, and I just milled them down a little bit at the end, or I guess it would be kind of a lathing down to just cut them down a little bit at the end, and then made some notches in them, and then slid them into the rod ends with some JB weld, and those hold nice and snug, nice and solid. The one negative to those is they can't be bent, they must be straight. If you try to bend it, it's just going to splinter and break. But they're really light, super lightweight, super easy to make, and they're like, I can do them myself pretty easily, no effort. The chassis on this truck is a sucker punch made by Fifth Dimension. He's a guy in Australia who's on RC Crawler, and he makes a bunch of stuff. He's got some custom wheels and all kinds of stuff. So so that's what this chassis is. It's called Sucker Punch by Fifth Dimension Crawlers. The shocks are Traxxas big bore shocks. I believe they're the longer shocks. They have the longer shock body. I only use those because that's what I had. I've got this shock cap mod on it. You should be able to see it there. Down here, the mod, basically you cut off the hoop that's on the lid, and you put a bolt out through the lid into a rod end. It gives you more flexibility, more maneuverability on the rod end. It allows it to have more travel, more motion. What else do we have here? The wheels, those are custom made. I just made those myself. I just took a sheet of carbon fiber, used a hole saw, and cut them out on the outside, then laid a Vanquish bead lock ring on the outside, drilled through it for all the outer holes, and then a Vanquish hub on the inside, drilled through it for the inner holes. And then I have on the inside, might not be very easy to see there, but I have the Shift Slim hubs. They're made by another guy, an RC Crawler. His name's BC Bryan, I believe. And basically those are customizable hubs, and all you have to do is you just change the screws, and then there's various spacers that you can put in there to get the various offsets that you want. So the reason I went with the AR60 axle in the front is so that I could get the servo down, lower center of gravity. Most axles, if you see them, even the AX10 axles, they'll have the servo up top. It's really up high, high center of gravity, and the servo is a reasonable amount of weight compared to the others, the way I've got it set up. It gets all the steering links way out of the way, like they're way up out of the way when you're driving. They're not going to snag on anything. All the links are just totally out of the way. And it gives you the width that you need. I have some knuckle weights coming for this to put inside the wheels here, to give it a little bit more weight up front. I do have some weight inside the wheels, but that's not really ideal. So that's what I've got on the front. And then the rear, I went with the AX10, half because then I could just split it with my brother who had an AX10 Shafty already, so I just traded him my rear axle for his front, and we kind of swapped parts around and made two trucks that are the same with the AR60 front and the AX10 rear. But additionally, on top of that, It also gives you the narrower track on the rear, which you really want because you don't want the truck to be square. You want a little bit narrower in the rear. It allows you to snake through the gates and stuff like that a little easier and not have to worry about hitting them. And again, on the front and rear both, those are just carbon fiber wheels. This is just a silver carbon fiber. I picked up that stuff, and then I also used this stuff previously, so they're kind of the same idea. We've got a PVC ring inside them that beadlocks them, and then on the inner part there's just some nuts for the 3mm hardware that runs through them. And I think that's about it. I've got the underdrive, overdrive, obviously, for the axles. It does benefit you going forward. Going reverse, it's a little bit of a hindrance, but it's worth its weight. I think it's worth the negatives for the positive sides. But yeah, that's my AX10 Sportsman Truck. Well, kind of AX10 anyway. Planned upgrades for this one is I have another transmission coming that's made by Hulksta Engineering, and basically what that is it's a replacement gearbox for the XR10 gears, and it allows you to run the XR10 gears as a central transmission in the AX10. It's considerably smaller footprint, so it gives you a much lower center of gravity because there's less gears. It's much smaller, so you can fit it in the chassis better without widening the chassis. Narrower chassis is usually beneficial because then you can kind of run the chassis through crevices in the rocks and stuff like that. But there it is. That's my Axial AX10.